Ever since 1962, when perhaps the first judgment on arbitrability of fraud was pronounced, till 2021, there have been lots of ups and downs in what is the correct understanding of fraud, and more importantly, whether fraud, whether mere allegation of a fraud, okay, will lead to a dispute being arbitrated upon or will render it non-arbitrable. Now let's see this for 1 minute. So the first judgment that came up, okay, was in the case of Abdul Qadir Shamsuddin versus Madhav Prabhakar Oak. This is 1961. Okay, the citation is AIR 1962, Supreme Court 406. Now, please see, let us have a look at it for 1 minute. Okay. Now, I will not get into the facts of the matter. Okay, but I will take you through the relevant paragraphs. Now, see this. We are clearly of the opinion that merely because some allegations have been made that accounts are correct or that certain items are exaggerated and so on, that is not enough to induce the court to refuse to make a reference to arbitration. It is only in cases of allegations of fraud of a serious nature that the court will refuse, as decided in Bussel's case, to order an arbitration agreement to be filed and will not make a reference. Okay. Now, of course, it refers to various other cases. It refers to, and by the way, this particular judgment in Abdul Qadir, because it came in 1962 or rather 1961, this was based on the Arbitration Act 1940. Okay. So now please see that there the question was whether the certain proceedings should be stayed, and it was held that notwithstanding the fact that the issue and evidence in support of it might bear upon the conduct of a certain persons and of those who attended him, and so might involve a question similar to that of fraud or no fraud, that was no ground for refusing stay. Now, it is only when serious allegations of fraud are made, which it is desirable should be tried in open court, that a court would be justified in refusing to order the arbitration agreement to be filed and in refusing to make a reference. Now, this is the earliest that we've been able to find that the fraud as a category of dispute was even brought to the attention of the court, and the fact that the courts had an occasion to see whether a particular dispute wherein allegations of fraud have been made on the other side, can they be referred to arbitration or not? In Abdul Qadir, the Honorable Supreme Court is very clear that only when serious allegations are made, okay, or in cases of allegations of fraud of a serious nature, that the court will refuse as decided. I don't think this is the Bussel's case. This is perhaps the Russell's case. This is Russell versus Russell, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, let us see now. We'll have to, when we talk about the film industry in India, they often use this term cut to, which effectively means that, leave the middle portion aside and then straight away come to this particular portion. So cut to 2009. Okay. Now, Abdul Qadir had held the fort for so many years. Cut to 2009. Okay. Where once again, the Honorable Apex Court had the occasion to examine this particular issue. And this was in the matter of N. Radhakrishnan versus Maestro Engineering. This is N. Radhakrishnan versus MS Maestro Engineers. Let us see this particular judgment for 1 minute. that the appellant had cited a catena of judicial pronouncements to contain that when there is an express provision to that effect, that civil courts are bound to refer the matter to an arbitrator in case of any disputes arising between the parties. The appellant had raised various issues relating to misappropriation of funds and malpractices on part of the respondents. And the allegations to that effect have been made in the notice sent to the respondents and subsequently in the written statement. Now let's come to the next paragraph, which is the operative part of the judgment, which is that in our opinion, the contention of the respondents relating to the jurisdiction of the arbitrator to decide a dispute pertaining to a matter of this proposition should be upheld in view of the facts and circumstances of the case. Now, the High Court in its impugned judgment has rightly held that since the case relates to allegations of fraud and serious malpractices on part of the respondents, such a situation can only be settled in court through furtherance of detailed evidence by either party. And such a situation cannot be properly gone into by the arbitrator. Now, please note this paragraph very carefully. Okay. This paragraph is what? It says that since the case relates to allegations of fraud and serious malpractices on part of the respondents, okay, it only says allegations of fraud. It does not say that it does not reiterate what was said in Abdul Qadir. So this 2009 judgment in N. Radhakrishnan is in stark deviation from Abdul Qadir. And may I just point this out, that Abdul Qadir, the judgment, okay, was passed by I think it was a two-judge bench only, if I'm not mistaken. Radhakrishnan is once again a two-judge bench. Now, please read para 11 for 1 minute. And it says that in our view and relying on the aforesaid observations of this court in the aforesaid decision and going by the ratio of the above mentioned case, the facts of the present case does not warrant the matter to be tried and decided by the arbitrator. Rather, for the furtherance of justice, it should be tried in a court of law which would be more competent and have the means to decide such a complicated matter involving various questions and issues raised in the present dispute. Now, please take a good note of this judgment because it deals with the scope of section 8.2, okay? And then it says that when there is an allegation of fraud, then the matter cannot go to the arbitrator. Now, while we were here, okay, there were several other judgments which got passed in between. The judgment in Booz Allen, okay. There was the judgment in Afcons Infrastructure, somewhere in between, where the Honorable Supreme Court laid down certain parameters of certain disputes which could be referred for alternative dispute resolution. Now, in Afcons Infrastructure versus Cherian-Verkey, there were certain kinds of disputes which could not be referred for alternative dispute resolution, and they were delineated. After that, in Booz Allen, in the year 2011, okay, once again, certain disputes which could be arbitrated upon, a list of that was delineated. Insofar as Booz Allen is concerned, the only thing that you will have to read in Booz Allen is in respect of what exactly does it say about the kind of matters that could have been arbitrated upon. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, fraud per se got missed out somewhere in between. And it got missed out in the sense that not enough light was thrown on whether N. Radhakrishnan was the correct law or the incorrect law in view of what had already been said in Abdul Qadir. Because Abdul Qadir, please remember, it says that mere allegations of fraud is not going to be enough. N. Radhakrishnan takes a contrarian view and says that no, mere allegations of fraud are enough, and then whatever needs to be looked into will have to be looked into by the civil court because an arbitrator would not be capable of going into all those aspects. Everybody seemed to be very happy with this entire transaction. However, then came the judgment in Swiss Timing versus Organizing Committee, Commonwealth Games, Delhi. Now, please see. A petition under 11.4 was filed with a prayer to appoint the nominee arbitrator of the respondent and further constitute the arbitral tribunal. This was the only thing that was asked, as in that was prayed before the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, please see this. That during a dispute, each party must continue to perform its obligations under this agreement. A party seeking to resolve dispute must notify the existence and nature of the dispute to the other party. Now, let's stop here for 1 minute. This is, of course, the arbitration clause. Okay. Now, let us see this. Paragraph number 18. However, the respondent has placed strong reliance on the judgment of this court in N. Radhakrishnan. Now, in that case, disputes had arisen between the appellant and the respondent, who were partners in the firm known as Maestro Engineers. Okay. Now, coming to the last few lines here, this court also rejected the prayer of the appellant for reference of the dispute because when they found that there is an allegation of fraud, as we have already discussed. The appellant, on the other hand, contended that the subject matter of the suit was well within the ambit of arbitration clause, since according to him, the dispute related to his retirement and the settlement of his dues after he was deemed to have retired, according to the respondents. Further, it was his contention that the partnership deed was not a valid one, as it was not framed in compliance with the requirements of the Partnership Act. Now, it is clear that there was a clear dispute regarding the reconstitution of the partnership firm and the subsequent deed framed to that effect. Please see. In my opinion, this is paragraph number 20. In my opinion, the observations in Hindustan Petroleum lays down the correct law. Okay. And although reference has been made to aforesaid observations in N. Radhakrishnan, but the same have not been distinguished. A two-judge bench of this court in P. Anand Gajapati Raju versus PVG Raju had earlier considered the scope of the provisions. So, unfortunately, what happens is that N. Radhakrishnan, which is a two-judge bench, by the way, did not consider the judgment passed in P. Anand Gajapati Raju. Right? Now, it is just unfortunate that it took few more years, and which means effectively 5 more years, for a single judge of the Supreme Court to point out that a division bench of the Supreme Court had erred in not considering a judgment of another division bench of the Supreme Court itself. Now, this P. Anand Gajapati Raju versus PVG Raju, okay, is one judgment that had not been considered in N. Radhakrishnan. Now, that judgment says that in a matter before us, the arbitration agreement covers all the disputes between the parties in the proceedings before us. And even more than that, as already noted, the arbitration agreement satisfies the requirements of Section 7 of the new Act. The language of Section 8 is preemptory. It is therefore obligatory for the court to refer the parties to arbitration in terms of their arbitration agreement. Nothing remains to be decided in the original action or the appeal arising therefrom. There is no question of stay of proceedings till the arbitration proceedings conclude and the award becomes final in terms of the provision of the new Act. Now, please see this for 1 minute. This goes back to that age-old understanding of interpretation of statutes, where they say that the best way to interpret is to not interpret it. Why? Because that is what is called the literal rule of interpretation. You read the provision as it is. And the Honorable Supreme Court in P. Anand Gajapati Raju did exactly that. Now, unfortunately, as much as this P. Anand Gajapati Raju was probably pronounced in 2003, okay, unfortunately, the two-judge bench in N. Radhakrishnan failed to take a view of P. Anand Gajapati Raju, and therefore, in Swiss timing, it had to be done by a single judge. Now, once this judgment in Swiss timing came out, obviously there is a small problem that arose, and that problem was that ultimately, for all those who understand judicial propriety, a single judge of the Supreme Court could not, and rather ought not to have pronounced a judgment which was probably against a division bench of the same court. Now, this is of course on the aspect of judicial propriety. I'm not on the correctness, because if my view were to be taken, this judgment in Swiss timing lays down the correct law. But nevertheless, okay, nevertheless, because this was given by a single judge bench, obviously, and N. Radhakrishnan was given by a division bench, obviously it was bound to create problems. Now, before it could even create problems that were already envisaged, the Law Commission report was released. Now, this was a strange turn of events. Not that people had not expected it. It's just that there was a very specific recommendation by the Law Commission in the nature of recommending the center to amend section 16 in the following manner: that after subsection 6, insert subsection 7, that the arbitral tribunal shall have the power to make an award or give a ruling, notwithstanding the dispute before it involves a serious question of law, complicated questions of fact, or allegations of fraud, corruption, etc. Section 16 says that the arbitral tribunal shall have the power to make an award or give a ruling, notwithstanding that the dispute before it involves a serious question of law, complicated questions of fact, or allegations of fraud, corruption, etc. Now, there is a note. The amendment is proposed in the light of Supreme Court decisions N. Radhakrishnan versus Maestro Engineers, which appeared to denude an arbitral tribunal of the power to decide on issues of fraud. Now, this is a recommendation that was made in August 2014. Now, please see this, because it was sent out in August 2014, so I think it is safe to assume. Now, by this time, you'll realize that the judgment in Swiss timing was already out. Okay. See, the idea here is that, and this is, obviously, of course, because the reasons are missing, so one can only guess that Justice Shah was conscious of the fact that Swiss timing had been pronounced by a single judge, and N. Radhakrishnan was pronounced by a division bench. So technically, N. Radhakrishnan would still be the standing law even after Swiss timing had been pronounced. Technically, that would be the case, in as much as the law laid down in Swiss timing has found favor with a lot of subsequent judgments. But nevertheless, I believe this could have been one of the reasons. But once this happened, obviously, as I said, it was bound to create issues, and more specifically in the nature of single judge division bench judgment. This issue, despite having been considered since 2009 in a detailed fashion, was once again, as in the Supreme Court had the occasion to consider the same issue yet again in the case of A. Ayasami versus A. Paramasivam. In the instant case, there is no dispute about the arbitration agreement in as much as there is a specific arbitration clause in the partnership deed. However, the question is as to whether the disputes raised by the respondent in the suit is incapable of settlement through arbitration. As pointed above, the Act does not make any provision excluding any category of disputes, treating them as non-arbitrable. Notwithstanding the above, the courts have held that certain kinds of disputes may not be capable of adjudication through the means of arbitration. And the courts have held that certain disputes, like criminal offenses of a public nature, disputes arising out of illegal agreements, and disputes relating to status, such as divorce, cannot be referred to arbitration. Following categories of disputes are generally treated as non-arbitrable: fraud, bribery, insolvency, etc. Fraud is one such category, okay, where disputes would be considered as non-arbitrable. However, once, Justice Sikri goes through this, okay, then he says that, look here, when the case involves serious allegations of fraud, the dicta contained in the aforesaid judgments would be understandable. However, at the same time, mere allegation of fraud in the pleadings by one party against the other cannot be a ground to hold the matter incapable of settlement by arbitration and should be decided by the civil court. The allegations of fraud should be such that not only these allegations are serious, that in normal course, these may even constitute criminal offense, they are also complex in nature. So the judge will have to get what Justice Sikri is saying, that you'll have to see the complexity of the nature of the dispute and then see whether it is a simpliciter allegation of fraud, or is it the case that it is a complicated question where fraud is prima facie made out, and that it will require a civil court to get into it, and that the arbitrator will not even have the resources to go through with this. This particular judgment has actually laid down the sort of hit the nail at its head, okay, and lays down the judgment in the most appropriate manner. Of course, this judgment is thereafter followed in various other judgments, right, which are Rashid Raza. This is by Justice Rohinton Nariman. And all the Nariman fans, you must know one thing, that Justice Nariman, in probably what is one of his shortest judgments, okay, says only two things. One, that Ayasami, okay, Ayasami lays down certain tests, and those tests are as follows. Does the plea permeate the entire contract, and above all, the agreement of arbitration rendering it void? That's the first test that you have to keep in mind. And whether the allegations of fraud touch upon the internal affairs of the parties inter se, having no implication in the public domain. So what are these two tests that we are going to be talking about? It says that whether it is possible, okay, that the arbitration agreement can be severed from the arbitration clause per se can be severed from the overall agreement. If that is the case, then it will be sent for arbitration. And the second aspect is that if the allegations of fraud touch upon the internal affairs of the party, say if it is a case that where two parties come to the court and say that, no, I am alleging fraud in the account books. So it has an impact only on partnership, or it has an impact only on the contract that has been entered into between the parties. However, if the allegation is of a nature where it has the propensity to affect public at large, okay, then in such a case, the particular dispute will not be referred to arbitration. This particular judgment came down in the year 2019. This was followed by two more judgments, which is Avitel Post Studios versus HSBC Pi Holding, which came in 2020, and once again is a Justice Nariman judgment. And one more judgment is NN Global, pronounced by Justice Indu Malhotra, and was authored by Justice Indu Malhotra and Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Now, may I just tell you one more thing, that while the judgment in Ayasami was actually rendered by two-judge bench, but then this Rashid Raza versus Sadaf Akhtar happens to be a three-judge bench, and therefore this becomes the standing law on the issue. If at all you are going to be looking at this aspect, you will have to keep coming back to Rashid Raza, and then you'll have to follow it up with the other two judgments, which is Avital Post Studios and NN Global. And I think with that, we have squarely covered, the judicial interpretation of how fraud, the arbitrability of fraud has been interpreted by the judiciary in India.